I seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against Shaitan, the rejected one, and his evil ways. I begin with the exalted name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Lord of the world, and I greet you all in the name of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace and salutations be upon Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the servant and messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May all those who assisted Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to bring Islam till it reached us today, may Allah bless them abundantly with the best of blessings, inshallah. Now, from the onset, today's lecture, please understand that it is not meant to point fingers at anybody. Today's lecture is not meant to criticize anybody, but it is an introspection upon ourselves. Every now and then, we need to look deeper into the problems that we have and try to find solutions. And we have to be bold enough to make sure that even if it means criticizing ourselves for the sake of progress, we must do that. Now, if you look at the events that we went through for the past year or two, now these are events that plunged us into darkness upon darkness. We experienced loss of lives of our beloved ones. We have lost a lot of our loved ones. We have been depressed. We have seen businesses closing down. We have seen a lot of our colleagues losing jobs. Not because that the bosses wanted them to lose jobs, but the circumstances forced us to shed off some of the jobs. We have seen a lot of diseases. We have seen a lot of businesses shutting down. Now the question therefore is, why were we plunged into such kind of darknesses and problems when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Nabi that I'm leaving you with this book here, the Quran, which is a book of taking you out of darkness into light? Why is it that we as Muslims, instead of being the people that take other people from darkness into light, we find ourselves depressed, in despair, losing hope? Why is it so? So today's lecture is going to look at one particular ayah that is in Surah Ibrahim, chapter 14 of the Holy Quran, the first ayah. And Allah says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alif Lam Ra. This is a book which we have sent down to you, O Muhammad, so that you can bring mankind from the darkness into light by the permission of their Lord to the path of the Almighty, the praiseworthy. Surah Al-Nabi. Now let us look at deeper into why are we in darkness. Now to answer this question, I'm going to borrow the words of Dr. Allama Iqbal. We all know him. He's a Muslim writer, a philosopher, a politician. Now, this man was a far thinker. He could look into what's going to come depending on the behavior of that particular situation. Now, to borrow him, and his words are actually proven to be true today. He says in one of his writings, and I quote, "The mullahs are given into petty infighting. Those that we call the so-called leaders, they themselves are involved into petty fightings. And they have made the masjids into their little kingdoms of controlling other people. They have turned the masjids into their personal spheres of control, instead of making the masjids the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The mullahs have turned the darul ulums into dull places, into places whereby they come up with these theologies and these theories that are meant to divide the people." He further says, the mullahs claim to be Muslims, but their questionable way of practicing Islam is turning people away from Islam. Now, these mullahs have brought about not only amongst themselves the fight, but their fight are infiltrating down into the common He says there will come a time whereby even a simple thing like the sighting of the moon at the end of Ramadan is a disputable issue, an issue that we cannot even agree upon. Don't we see that today? Whereby a common Muslim or an ordinary Muslim will ask, because based on what the mullahs are saying, they are confused on when is Eid. Ask any youngster today, who is your leader? They won't pinpoint that this is my leader because they are so disheartened of what is coming from the top. Now, these words of Allah Iqbal have been predicted today. Now, the so-called, some of the examples that he has predicted is that the so-called custodians of the Holy Lands. Now, you know, when you talk about Saudi Arabia today, your heart bleeds. Your heart breaks into pieces of what is happening. Those who claim to be the custodians of the two holy mosques, what are they doing in that holy land? They have turned that into the capital of fun and amusement in the world. MPS himself, he says, I want to make sure that in 5 years' time, Saudi Arabia is a leader in entertainment. Forgetting what Allah says in chapter 6, ayah 32 of the Holy Quran. What does Allah say? What is the life of this world but play and amusement? But for those who believe in the hereafter, the righteousness, this life is hell. This world should not be fun and amusement for a believer. And yet those who claim to be the custodians of the holiest land on earth, they want to make that land the capital of fun and amusement of the world. Now, besides Saudi Arabia, look at Dubai. Dubai, it is a well-known secret that if you want fun and amusement of utmost, prostitution of the world, where do you get it? They say it's only your money that speaks. You can get anything that you want, including the best prostitute. Where do you get it? In the Muslim land, in Dubai. You know, I was researching on the issue of alcohol. Do you know that prime time in South Africa, prime time on TV, in the media, every 5 minutes, there is an advert of alcohol. Why? Because this is the handiwork of the shaitan. The shaitan said, I'm going to entice the believers and everybody else to get involved in alcohol, in gambling. Now, why am I mentioning this handiwork of shaitan drinking? Do you know that Heineken, one of the biggest producers of alcohol, where is it getting their bottles from? Google. You'll get the shock of your life that Egypt, 100% Muslim populated country, is the biggest producer of beer bottles in the world. And yet we claim that Al-Azhar University produces world-class scholars, and yet they cannot give a fatwa that the one who produces alcohol or intoxicants, the one who farms whatever ingredients are involved, the one who bottles it, packs it, and the one that transports it, the one that sells it, is liable of contributing to corruption on earth. And yet we claim that places like Al-Azhar are producing world-class scholars. And yet they cannot issue a simple fatwa to say that you, Egypt, stop producing bottles for alcohol around the world. Now, what is the solution then? The solution is again found in the same Quran, the book of guidance, where Allah says, you can produce whatever you want in the world, but the best production is this book, the Quran. Go back to it. And the most important thing that I want to leave you with is that don't just read the Quran for sawab and say, you know what, I read 50 times Surah Yasin, I read. Allah says that is not the case with the Quran. Allah says read the Quran, understand the Quran, implement the Quran, practice upon the Quran. And you know what is the most important word that Allah says? Spread it. Because in chapter 81 of the Holy Quran, verse 27, it says this book is not just for recitation. This book is to be given to mankind, just like how I gave Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a message unto mankind. This book, the Al-Quran, is meant to be spread. It's not about your sawab. It's about sharing it with mankind so that you take those who are steeped in darkness out of that darkness into light with the Quran only. And this is not supposed to be left only to the mullahs. Don't think that, Maulana Abdul Razak Kautar is going to spread the Quran, or Maulana Intikab is the one that is going to spread the word of the Quran. No, Allah says you are responsible as an individual Muslim. Take personal responsibility. Don't leave it to the mullahs. And also Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, even if you know one word of the Quran, spread it. Not for somebody else, but for you, O Muslims. So please take personal responsibility, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite our hearts and help one another in righteousness, help bring those who are in darkness into light by making the Quran our daily manual, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.